Welcome, everyone, to today's Explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here with us, because today we're unpacking a story that's honestly as old as human ambition itself, but it's set right in the middle of the modern, lightning-fast world of digital currency. We're talking about that universal temptation we all feel, the dream of striking it rich overnight in the crypto market. It's a world filled with dizzying highs, crushing lows, and a cast of characters you literally wouldn't believe if they weren't entirely real. Right off the bat, I want you to ask yourself a question. What if you could make thousands overnight? Seriously, just imagine that for a second. You go to sleep, your money's tied up in some digital asset, and by the time your alarm goes off the next morning, your entire financial reality has just shifted. It's that irresistible pull of sudden wealth, right? That intense fear of missing out while everyone else on the internet seems to be buying yachts. It's a psychological hook that is just incredibly difficult to ignore. And honestly, that exact feeling is the beating heart of the story we're about to explore today. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the allure of crypto dreams. Let's begin exactly where so many of these stories actually start. Not on some high-tech, chaotic trading floor, but in a totally mundane, relatable setting. I want to introduce you to Rohan. He's just an ordinary guy living in Mumbai, working a standard 9-to-5 job, and earning a pretty average salary. But like so many of us, Rohan has these massive dreams of escaping the daily grind. Every single night, after a completely exhausting day at work, Rohan would just sit on his bed, the glow of his phone illuminating his face in the dark, and he'd endlessly scroll through crypto charts. He'd watch those green candles shooting up, watch Bitcoin rising, and read all these crazy stories of everyday people making absolute fortunes overnight. And every time he looked at those charts, he'd whisper to himself, one day, this will be me. Well, eventually, that one day arrived. Rohan decided he just couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore. One evening, he finally took the plunge and invested his entire life savings into the crypto market. The amount? Roughly $600. Now, sure, in the grand scheme of global finance, that might not sound like a huge number, but for Rohan, this was literally everything he had saved up. That night, sleep was completely impossible. He was just tossing and turning, his mind absolutely racing with this potent mixture of raw excitement, genuine fear, and overwhelming hope. He was officially in the game. Moving right along, Section 2, entering the whale's circle. The very next morning, Rohan gets this strange, unsolicited message on Telegram from a totally unknown user named ShadowX, and it read, "Crypto isn't just a market, it's a game, and only a few know the rules." Now, what's really interesting about this setup is how brilliantly manipulative that framing is. ShadowX isn't just offering standard financial advice. He's offering a key to a secret door. He's basically telling Rohan, hey, the reason you aren't rich yet isn't because you're unlucky, it's because you're not in the inner circle. And just like that, ShadowX adds Rohan to this highly secretive private group called the Whales Circle. Inside, people are sharing trade signals, posting screenshots of massive profits, giving live updates, and to Rohan's eyes, the whole shebang looked incredibly real. And this brilliantly illustrates how the trap is set. ShadowX doesn't just ask for blind trust right away. He actually proves it. Rohan decides to test the waters, right? He takes a small, super cautious step and invests $60 based on one of the group's so-called signals. Within just 30 minutes, that $60 turns into $140. His heart is absolutely pounding at this point. He looks at his screen and thinks, no way, this is real, this actually works. The dopamine hit is instant, and his belief in ShadowX's whole system is completely cemented. So, days pass, Rohan keeps following these signals, and he actually keeps winning. Those small profits are steadily turning into bigger ones. But his initial cautious confidence slowly morphs into something else entirely, blind greed. And that's exactly when the ultimate bait is dropped. ShadowX posts a new message to the group. Big move coming. This is the one. Go all in, if you're serious. It's just a masterclass in pressure, isn't it? It challenges Rohan's commitment and dangles that life-changing wealth he's been dreaming of right in front of his face. Under the absolute spell of those previous wins, Rohan doesn't even think twice. He gathers up all his remaining money, and he even goes as far as borrowing cash from a friend just to maximize his position. His total investment hits $2,500. And right on cue, the coin starts pumping. The chart shoots up faster than ever before. Rohan literally jumps out of his chair in his bedroom, shouting to the empty room, "I made it!" He truly believes he has finally escaped that 9-to-5 life. Let's move to Section 3 and see how this builds the devastating crash. Just as he reaches the absolute peak of his euphoria, the bottom completely drops out. Those beautiful, rising green candles on his screen violently turn red. The price drops faster and faster. Within mere minutes, the $2,500 he had scraped together, saved, and borrowed plummeted to exactly $90. Just take a moment to imagine that feeling, that gut-wrenching drop. Rohan absolutely froze. He's staring at his screen, muttering, "No, no, no, this can't be happening." But the nightmare is very real. And when he frantically checks the Whale Circle Telegram group for an explanation or just some tiny sign of hope, nothing. The group has gone completely, deafeningly silent. Shadow X has vanished into the digital ether. No messages, no signals, nothing. Rohan is entirely alone. Which brings us to Section 4, Anatomy of Pump and Dump. Desperate for answers, Rohan turned to the internet to figure out what on earth just happened. And that's when he uncovered the cold, hard truth. He was the victim of a classic pump and dump scam. So the crucial point is understanding what this actually means. A pump and dump is a manipulative scheme where orchestrators create fake hype to wildly inflate an asset's price, only to sell off their own holdings at the absolute peak. This leaves everyone else holding the bag with massive, heavy losses. Rohan finally realized a painful truth. He wasn't playing the game alongside Shadow X. He was being played by him. Let's actually break down the exact steps of this so you can recognize the mechanics if you ever see them in the wild. Step 1, the big players, the scammers like Shadow X, buy into a cheap, totally unknown coin first, while it costs practically nothing. Step 2, they create the hype. They use those private groups, totally fake screenshots, and the illusion of insider knowledge to build a massive frenzy of excitement. Step 3, they make people like Rohan invest, creating a wave of buying that artificially pumps the price skyward. And finally, Step 4, the execution. Once the price is sky high, the orchestrators sell all their holdings at the top. That sudden, massive sell-off crashes the price instantly, leaving everyday investors with nothing but worthless digital tokens. Now for the final part of our story, Section 5, Building Something Real. For days after the crash, Rohan was just broken. But amidst the total financial ruin, he realized he had actually gained something incredibly valuable: experience. Instead of quietly quitting and walking away, he decided to fight back. Rohan went out and started a YouTube channel called Crypto Truth. He used his new platform to actively expose these scams, clearly explaining the exact strategies that tricked him in the first place and issuing stark, honest warnings to beginners. And you know what? A really beautiful thing happened. Slowly but surely, people started watching. Because he was so authentic and vulnerable about his own massive failure, trust started building in the community. It's an immense emotional transformation here, guys. He was no longer that naive guy desperately chasing overnight wealth through sketchy, secret Telegram groups. He was actually providing genuine protective value to a whole community. He wasn't chasing money anymore. He was building something real. Which perfectly brings us to our final takeaway for this explainer. The story leaves us with this incredibly powerful thought. Crypto can make you rich, but without knowledge, it can destroy you faster than anything. It is a stark, necessary reminder that in absolutely any market, your greatest asset isn't some hot tip or an invite to a secret group. It's your own financial education. So before you click buy on that next hot crypto tip, I want you to ask yourself, are you truly playing the game, or is the game playing you? Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you all next time.